Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Eachine Wizard X220 V2 4S 5-inch freestyle model. The box looks like it's been in a plane crash. Now, when the V1 of this guy came out, it kind of changed the game for everybody. You see, back in about 2016, quadcopters were expensive to build yourself and even more expensive for bind and flies. The V1 of this guy, I think, cost around about £100. All you had to do was add your receiver, so this is a plug and fly, just like that one. But if you wanted something like an Impulse RC Alien, which this is really kind of based off, you would be paying £120 just for the frame. So the V1 of this guy got a lot of people into the hobby, so it's hard to ignore the V2. Unfortunately, since then, Eachine has got a bit of a reputation for producing bad products, but I think the price of this V2 can't be ignored either. It kind of makes me laugh that they're calling it a V2, because if we go on the website, you will see lots of different versions of the Eachine Wizard. So we have got this one here, which was kind of like a racing floss version of it. Then we've got the Eachine X220S, which came out shortly after the original one. So this is the original one here. It's now 116 GBP. And this is the V2 here, so 124 GBP. It isn't that much more expensive than this one. Then we've got like a 3-inch version of it over here, the 6S version, which you couldn't use 6S with because it would just do death rolls, so that was the HV. But anyways, they are saying that this is the V2 version of this one. And looking at it, yeah, I mean, you know, it is way better in terms of the build, what you get with the package. There are a couple of things that are the same, and while you might be saying, well, you know, it's Eachine, it's going to be nonsense. And, you know, as a reviewer who gets sent stuff for free, it's very easy to say, oh, you know, this is a trash product, and, you know, it might be. And I saw Josh say, don't even bother with this guy. Go for the Nazgul 5 V2 or go for the Diatone Roma, which are superb models. They are. The thing is, though, they are, you know, nearly 80 quid more. And, you know, if you're not sent all of these things for free, 80 quid is a lot. Now, if you have that 80 quid, then absolutely, absolutely go for this. But you see, the price doesn't stop there. This is a Nazgul 5 V2 as well. This is my current favorite freestyle model because, yeah, you know, you're going to need a receiver, you're going to need a battery, you're going to need a charger, you're going to need goggles, and you're going to need a transmitter. By the way, for this package, I would recommend the Radiomaster TX12 for this, and the goggles, the Eachine EV800 DMs. People say, why not the EV800s? Yeah, fine if you like that one. This one just fits my face nicer, a little bit smaller, so I choose this one. So, yeah, when Josh said, oh, don't even bother with the Eachine Wizard, go for this, I was a little bit like, yeah, I think you've got the pricing wrong there. Or I know some people say, oh, well, you know, just save up. What? Save up when it's like a Christmas present for someone? Not everybody has got an infinite amount of disposable income, you know. So I would actually say that the Eachine Wizard V2 is not competing with these, because if we take a look over here, you can still buy the Nazgul 5 V1, and look at the price of this, 137. Much closer, isn't it, to that 124 GBP. Now, one thing that you do get with your money for this guy is a GoPro Hero 527 mount. So, you know, if you're buying this thing, personally, I'd look at this as a basher quad for me. You know, it's really cheap, so you can practice some stunts, and if it gets smashed up, who cares, you know? This is very cheap compared to, you know, my pride and joy, which is this guy over here. But for 124 GBP without a receiver, it's nice to get the GoPro mount. I think most people aren't going to be bothered about a GoPro mount though. So with the Nazgul 5 V1, you don't get the GoPro mount. It's just an overall better model. This is the 4S version, so you can get the Nazgul 5 and the Roma in 6S, which is my preferred option because, you know, it more future-proof, you know, better on the batteries and things, more current. Nothing wrong with 4S as well though, so, you know, 4S is good for learning on, I guess. But the other model was this one, the SkyStars Star-Lord. This is an absolute beast, this guy. I've still got mine. Actually, my friend Phil has got it. It has been through wars and is still going, and 134 GBP. This one, 32-bit ESCs. It's got a fantastic VTX and just a great flying model. The frame is copied, I believe, from Johnny FPV's frame, but for the price, it's these ones that are competing with the Eachine Wizard, and not these two. These two are more, you know, higher price, and, you know, you're talking 300 quid perhaps in total when you've got all of your stuff, you know, with this. So that 80 quid, it is going to, you know, make the difference. But, you know, I can't deny that if you've got the cash, these two, either of them, are the ones to get the best sort of bang for your buck. But if you don't have that, well, let's see how this Eachine Wizard X220 V2 performs and if it's worth getting at all for the price. Alrighty, let's take a look at what we get in this battered box. That is something that happens when you buy from China. You know, the box looks like it's been through a war itself. On the top we have got some propellers. They are the Racer Star propellers. Not the best propellers, but, you know, they will do the job. We've got the TPU 3D printed mount here for a GoPro. It's even got like a little gap in there for, like, I guess a lens protector. It feels a little bit flimsy, but better than nothing, you know. And if you are buying a budget thing, you can get like the GoPro Hero 5 and 6 for very cheap on eBay now. Some stickers and some cable ties here. They do give you a lot of stuff, Eachine. So we've got it's quite a nice right-hand polarized antenna here, cloverleaf. We've got some landing pads, which I wouldn't really recommend using. They will get caked in mud. Got a spanner, I guess, for the prop nuts. Some screws in there. This is the quadcopter itself. What have we got here? Looks like some kind of mat. And those are the prop nuts, probably directional with them being different colours, but it does look like they're locking. Anything else? No. Eachine always do this. They make it really difficult to get it out of this foam thing, so be careful, because, you know, we don't want to be picking it up by the flight controller or the ESCs or anything like that, because you know, end up bending it and breaking it. Oh, this looks a lot smarter than the V1. You know, I think a lot of people looking at this guy and trashing it can't remember what the V1 looks like. It had all those sides on there that sort of moved. This is much more solid for not a lot more money. So yeah, it's actually looking pretty nice here. So let's start off with the frame. We've got very thick arms, actually. They are, I think they are 5mm, yeah, and they're quick release as well. So yeah, you see there that we have got this quick release system here. Individual arms, that is absolutely rock solid. Not too much of a fan of these motor protectors. I find that they add more weight than they do good. The idea is that, you know, you hit your motor, then it's not going to damage it, but in most cases it will just, you know, with that kind of force, take the motor off and, you know, completely damage it anyway. So, you know, whatever. I would take those off, but also if you are taking those off, be careful, because in order to have these on there, they have to have longer screws to go into the bottom of the motor, and if you take that off, the screws can often short on the back of the motor and you'll get a lot of smoke out of that. The motors it says, and the reason why I say it says is because, you know, with Eachine, it's not always what is written on there. They are supposedly a 2207 2550 kV, so 4S only, which is absolutely fine. They're recommending on the website a 1300 milliamp hour 4S. Don't do that because that'll be too heavy on current. Go for at least a 1500 milliamp 4S or an 1800, otherwise you get really short flight times and destroy your batteries really quickly. So the motors aren't anything special. They are definitely budget motors. We haven't got a hollow shaft even. And are they even a naked bottom? I don't even think so. Yeah, so it's possible that they're using these covers to cover up the fact that well, they're not the newest of motors. But really that's how they sort of make their money on these things, you know, using old components. These ESCs here, individual ESCs rather than a 4-in-1 ESC. Interestingly, you see, I thought this was a 4-in-1 ESC. This is this is really old school. This is like a power distribution board by the looks of it. So these are BL Halley S, not BL Halley 32. So this is where I say the Star-Lord has got a better setup and VTX there, you know. But on the plus side, if an ESC goes, then it's like what, 7 to 10 quid an ESC, and I've never really noticed that much of a benefit with 32-bit ESCs against BL Halley S. You can do JESC on both of them. We've got some of this Emax tape around here, so it's actually quite neat as well. 3D printed parts for the landing skids, very good quality. I like these actually. Means you can skid along the ground if you want to and not damage the arms, and the screws are recessed so you won't damage the screws either if you want to slide along the ground. Yeah, so it is actually a squished X, if you see, which I quite like. I like how a squished X flies, and it gets the props out of shot easier compared to a stretched X. The camera is a Foxeer Micro Pro. Yeah, it's an okay camera. Yeah, it's a fine camera for the price. The flight controller is an F405 DJI, so it's got a USB Type-C connector on it there, which you don't usually see on a budget model, and it's got some BECS built into it, so potentially upgradable to DJI, but I'm not sure you'll be putting the DJI system onto an Eachine model, but who knows. And the VTX, it's called the TC5804 Pro, and it's switchable up to 600 milliwatts, so that's fairly decent. Of course, if you're a beginner, don't ever plug any of this in without installing the SMA antenna on the back. Yeah, so the VTX is just in the middle here. I prefer things spaced out. I mean, look, we've got all of this space here in a frame, which sure you can put your receiver there. I guess some of the FlySky receivers are bigger, but I would have liked the components spaced out for better weight distribution, but no, it's Eachine, isn't it? They're not going to be thinking about weight distribution. We've got an MMCX connector and pigtail for the VTX, which is quite nice as well. Also tend to find if the VTX is over the top of the flight control, and we've got all sorts of regulators on here, you can get RF noise through to the VTX, another reason why I'd like it back over here. XT60 connector. The gauge on the wire looks fairly thin actually, so it's 16 gauge, which should be fine. And this is plug and play, just like all of the other models I talked about. So we've got a servo connector. I'm going to be using an XM Plus, but you probably want to get one of the Radio Master versions of the XM Pluses, because the FrSky XM Pluses, I believe, come flash with the V2 of the firmware now that won't work with the Radio Master TXs. Got two nice straps on the top here, and this is the anti-slip mat for a battery, so that's pretty good. And then back here, nice TPU 3D printed part if you ever want to add a Crossfire receiver and an Immortal T antenna, which again, if you're buying Eachine, they're probably not going to be buying Crossfire, but you know, there you go, you've got the option to do so. So this is an XM Plus here, and I've soldered the pins onto it, and so this is just going to plug in with the yellow wire at the top, which is the signal wire, and then you've got this sort of bit of a gap here to know which way around it is. Now there are these holes on here for straws. Now you can buy straws off of Banggood as well for a couple of quid. It's a shame they didn't include it, but there you go, they are going for budget, aren't they? I think these receivers here cost around about 12 quid, something like that. Okay, so I have added a receiver to it and attached the GoPro mount. You will need a 2mm hex driver to take these screws out, but you can reuse the same screws front and back, no problems there. What I have done is taken the battery straps out of these little slots here, otherwise your battery isn't going to fit between that gap, so just took both of those out, and then I put that extra bit of silicone mat on the back because our battery's going to sit at the back like that, otherwise the camera is going to get in the way. Then I've added the receivers, a nice little hole here, it's the XM Plus here, and I use the cable tie that comes in the package to wrap around the servo connector and can access the bind button nicely there. And I've used some straws from an iFlight model. Those really nice, those, so you might want to get those. See, there's all these little hidden extra costs that you need to buy when getting these things anyways. The receiver doesn't power up off the flight controller, so the next thing I need to do is make a quick model. Now I'm going to be using this because it's what I'm flying all of my models on today. This is the Taranis X9D 2019 Plus, I think. So to create a model, very similar on the TX12i, ignore the wizard. And then if we go to page over here, I'm just going to be lazy here and call this the WV2. I'll know what that means. Okay, and then scroll to the bottom, and on my internal RF I'm going to select a CCST D16. I think on the Radio Master TX12 it just comes up as FR Sky, but you know, it should be fairly simple to figure that out. I always do channels 1 to 8, just slightly better latency there, and set the failsafe to no pulses. Then page over to the mixers. I'm just going to create simple A for arming, and then on the source I have that as my arm switch, so I'm not matching what Eachine's got on their modes tab. I'll be changing that. So it's going to arm the motors, and then I have this one as my modes, and again I just put M for modes because I'm lazy, and then choose that switch there for modes. And then I'm going to have not on channel 8, let's delete that. It needs to go on channel 7. That doesn't need to, but we've got 8 channels available, and it might be that I've got the RSSI on channel 8 on my XM Plus. I think it's flashed with that firmware. We'll see. So this one's going to be B for buzzer. Oh, my shaky hands these days, man. B for buzzer. Usually have buzzer on this one. I don't do flip over after crash, turtle mode, anything like that. I'm just asking for trouble. Actually, does this have a physical beeper on it? Can't see one. So we can do D-shot commands for lost model alarm. So I want to do all of this with the props off. So now I can go into the bind bit there. And this is a non-telemetry receiver, so we can do telemetry off. We should get some beeps. I might have turned the beeps off actually. It's saying that it's binding anyway. This is the awkward bit where you have to plug in the battery on FR It's so annoying. And hold down the bind button at the same time. Can I get my finger in there? Let's see. You have to keep it pressed. Let's see if we've got, yes, so we've got a green flashing light now. So that's still saying it's in the bind, so just exit out of that. And we are ready to plug it into Betaflight and set it up. Alrighty, so let's take a look at Betaflight. So version 4.2.2 actually has a data flash built in. I don't think it's on an SD card. Let's check out the ports. So using the smart audio on the UART 2. Then we've got a UART 5 for the MSP. So has this got Bluetooth? UART 6 for the serial RX go into configuration, but yeah, a few UARTs spare there. Pretty cool. Configuration, we are with the props in with D-Shot 600. Doesn't look like any RPM filtering. Yeah, it's just got like very retro setup. So arming, I'm going to change to 180 degrees so we can arm at any angle. We don't need magnetometer, we don't need barometer. 8K is fine. Our CPU isn't getting overloaded, but yeah, looks like a classic, well, non-setup from Eachine, or very basic. Nothing in the craft name. I'm fine without a craft name. Let's look for any more gotchas. LED strip. I don't think there's an LED strip on this guy. They probably just copied it straight from another model. Air mode, that's good. On-screen display, dynamic filter. Hasn't got a beacon. Let me just plug the battery in. Make sure I've got the antenna on the back there. And no, we've got no buzzer. So. Yeah, classic Eachine setup there. You know, some of the money definitely gets lost in the setup. They're basically just flashing it for you and going, yeah, you've got to do the rest. No instructions in the package either, by the way. So, you know, just stock settings. I go 3.3 on there and 3.3 on there. Go to PID tuning. I would imagine these are just stock. Yeah. Nothing changes, so just stock Betaflight PIDs, which are designed for a 5-inch freestyle model, but you know, you pay extra for, especially the Nazgul 5 V2, you're gonna get custom PIDs on there that are gonna work great. So you know, the rate profile is gonna be the same, isn't it? Luckily though, the stock rates aren't too different from what I fly, so you can copy these if you like. Let's see, TPA, no throttle limit. You know, if you're a beginner, you might want to limit the throttle, especially if you don't want to damage your batteries. Receiver, my channel map is TAER, and I'm going to stick 7 in for the RC deadband, just so we don't get any movement around here. Modes, let's see, so I actually have my arming on aux 1 and angle on aux 2. Have we got anything else? Nothing else. So I would just stick a beeper here on the auxiliary 3, and I would stick it over here so that it's not going off if you have your transmitter unplugged or anything like that. Right, so now I'm going to plug in the battery again, props off, and hopefully these values here should come to life. Ah yeah, so I did have the RSSI on channel 8, so yeah, we can see the quad is moving around there. Yeah, it's looking fine. I'm just going to put the RSSI here for the on-screen display. That's going to tell us, you know, how much range that we've got. So if I Save that now, go into the modes, arming. It shouldn't let us arm because we're connected to Betaflight. So start off an angle, that's going to be ACA and air mode over there. And the beeper, which you can hear there, is working because I set it up. Right, on-screen display. Oh, we don't have much there, do we? Yeah, warnings will tell you why it's not arming and stuff, but if you know what you're doing, then you don't need warnings. Yeah, that's very minimalistic. I would at least put a timer in here, and we want to go for timer 2. Stick that over here somewhere. Yeah, it doesn't say whether it's a PAL or AndyRC camera, it's just on auto. One thing that's good to have, especially if you are having smart audio, is the VTX and channel power output. RSSI I added, so I'm going to want that. There we go, RSSI value. So we can just stick that up the top somewhere, hopefully. And what's good for a review is sometimes the throttle position is good, isn't it, for a review? So let's stick that there as well somewhere. Anything else? I mean, they're not saying, oh, it's got a current meter. I suppose you didn't need to worry about all of that, you know. We want to stay above 14 volts, and when it says 14 volts on a 4S, that's when we want to land, and you know, it's the most important one. I think it's important to have that, our timer, yeah. Okay, so I've had a look through the goggles and there are a couple of problems. The first one is the on-screen display is flickering like crazy, and that's because it's set to auto and it's recognizing the camera as PAL. But it needs switching to NTSC, and that will stop the on-screen display flickering. Unfortunately, they've left the Foxeer camera's on-screen display turned on, which is useless because it's powered by 5 volt, and you would need to get a separate camera board if you wanted to turn that off, because it's not included in the box. Kind of annoying, but these are just the sort of things that you have to put up with when buying cheap, I'm afraid. Also, this is the VTX table and power, has got question marks all through it, and this really frustrates me. If you've got people out there saying, oh, just buy this, if you're gonna buy a Wizard, buy this, and up here it says A and then power output 200. That's because they couldn't have been bothered to figure out the problem. So you plug it in, it's all question marks, and that's because it's set as the wrong protocol. So if we go into the ports here, it was set as TBS Smart Audio out of the box. So it works, but only on the A band. It won't let you select any other bands. So you need to change that to Tramp, and then you'll get rid of all the question marks in your on-screen display, and you'll be able to change the power and select whatever channel you need. So here's something fun that they have buggered up and is show-stopping. Now, it looks like these motor nuts are directional because they are all different colours, and if that was the case, then the silver one should be over here, but as you can see, it's not. The black one fits over here, and that is because the black and silver ones are all the same direction. Now that's a problem because these motors are actually directional, so you need a reverse thread on that one and a reverse thread on that one. I've had to borrow this from another quadcopter, a very old one, because you know we tend not to have these reverse threads anymore because they are locking nuts anyway, so they're not needed. But yeah, I spent ages trying to fit this onto this side, almost ruined the thread. That is a really silly thing to do. It's a small thing, but it will completely stop you flying this model, so that is a big thumbs down for me with that one. Alrighty, let's go for a line of sight flight with this one. You want to stand back just in case you've put the props on the wrong way, because you know the thing could flip out, or you know with this motor direction thing they could have, you know, messed up the direction of the motors. Let's go for an arm and see what happens. Slowly up on the throttle, start in angle mode, and we are fine. So really, this is just to see, you know, if I can notice any problems with the tune and see how much power that we've got, what it sounds like. I think I'm seeing a wobble there, but don't have the GoPro on. Remember, these are just stock Betaflight PIDs. Stock Betaflight PIDs are designed for the weight of a GoPro, but the GoPro that's going on here is currently on my head. Okay, let's try acro. Well, it hasn't flown to the moon, so it's a good start. It's fairly quiet actually without a GoPro, but stick a GoPro on there, it's going to be loud. I don't know though, anyone buying Eachine going to be sticking on a GoPro? Don't know. Yeah, it feels a little bit wobbly, but it's flying, you know. So all I did was, you know, added my receiver to it and my 4S battery. And it's going, I have to say, actually. I mean, that directional nut thing, oh, that's a showstopper though, I'm afraid. Not for me, but I can't think about myself, you know. Because if I just thought about myself getting sent these products, then I just go, yeah, get the Nazgul. You know, who cares? What's 80 quid when you're being sent something free? Well, it's a lot of money, actually. But yeah, just like anything, you know, you tune it enough, spend enough time on tuning, learning tuning. I can't see any reason why you couldn't get this flying as good as any other 5-inch freestyle model. Of course, you'll get the people saying, oh, the Eachine components are junk, they are rubbish. That's not always the case. The problem with Eachine is they're hit and miss. And this is a new product, so to say Eachine are always rubbish is not true. That Novice 4 package has been brilliant. I've put it through its paces. It's not failed. And this is feeling pretty good, but yes, you are right. It's hit and miss whether the components are going to be okay. The HV, which is the 6S Wizard, didn't even take 6S. Well, it did, but then you'd have random desyncs, as people call them, you know, which you don't want. But it's feeling all right, man. It's feeling all right. I got my rates on it, so you know I'm comfortable with it. It's got tons of power, not like loads, but that's fine. You don't want like too much power for freestyle, otherwise your batteries won't last very long. And oh man, I'm having fun with this line of sight. I am. But of course, you know, the quality of the VTX picture and everything, that's going to play a big factor, because I am really picky when it comes to VTX. It has to be squeaky clean for me. Otherwise it's a no. But you know, some people don't have the choice. This is what people don't realize. For some people, for the money they have, this is the only choice. And if I didn't get sent them for free to try it, that'd be the same for me. You know, I'm driving like a 17-year-old car. I can't afford top-notch stuff. Right, flies fine line of sight. Let's stick the camera on there for some extra weight and go fly some FPV with it. Alrighty, let's go for an FPV flight with this guy. I tell you, there's some there's some field of view with this camera. Oh, you can see that blimmin' Foxeer OSD flashing because it's only receiving 5 volts from the back. Whatever. Do you know what, man? That feed is clean, man. That feed is clean. The the angle on the GoPro is not beginner friendly, and of course You cannot change that. But the FPV camera, it came with that angle on it. Let's see what the voltage sag is like. It's a 15.5. Goes into the 13, so before you begin it, could probably do with a little bit of a throttle limit. Wish the blimmin' sun had come out. A bit of brake up there. So 600 milliwatt VTX, you can see it saying race band 6 now, which I couldn't get it to do before. It flies not bad, you know. I mean, this is it, isn't it? You know, this is the thing with Betaflight now. It's more about your rates than anything else. Getting a bit of brake up here. That's my RSSI. I have to be careful because, especially how thick these trees are, about 120 meters there. But the frisky RSSI, it dies quick. But yeah, it's pretty good reception, that, man. Pretty good reception. Out of line of sight, 120 meters away behind some thick trees. You could do some good freestyle with this. You could definitely get it to the point where, you know, people wouldn't know, oh, that's an Eachine product. Could tune it a wee bit, see if we've got any bounce back. Come on, son, you know you want to. Yeah, there's a bit of bounce back. Either that or it's my fingers. Do you know what? It's just pretty quiet, you know. Pretty quiet, and I've flown a lot scarier models. I would say that the Nazgul and the Roma, scarier model. This feels quite light, you know. And yeah, it's got the GoPro mount. Man, it's just setting it up, isn't it? It's the little things like, you know, they set it as smart audio when it was Tramp. That's just not them knowing even what they have built, isn't it? And it's amazingly lucky that the video feed is as clean as this. The sky's a little bit washed out with this camera, but that's fine. And then, you know, they haven't removed the foxier on-screen display, so it's just flashing, and that's just annoying. But, you know, if you're willing to do those things, you should probably buy one of those camera boards for, what, like a $5 or something. Or I'm sure someone in an FPV group, they got loads of them. If you buy a camera, you know, lots of different cameras, you only need the one. So yeah, here we go. Me putting Eachine Wizard V2 through its paces. Better than the V1, absolutely. But obviously not as good as the Nazgul, not as good as the Roma, not as good as the Star-Lord, but, you know, not far off actually. Yeah, 14 volts still. What's the flight time? 4 minutes. I think this is a 1500 milliamp hour battery, so if you want to be giving it a bit of def, then yeah, we've got a bit of a wobble there. Yeah, if you want to be giving it def, then 4 minute flight time is all you're going to get with a GoPro, along without a GoPro. But yeah, Star-Lord's a good one. Nazgul V1. They're all very similar. It's just this has got the Eachine badge, and it's a bit like the Skoda badge back in the day, isn't it? You know, when they started making decent cars, people didn't want one. Oh, it's a Skoda. Oh, it's an Eachine. It's all right. It needs a bit of work. The nuts on the props are a big showstopper if you haven't got them. So you know, it's more expense. So you know, factor that in. But it's really up to you. I'd recommend it. You can get it going. It's cheap. I'll put a link in the video description as well as a pinned comment if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.